Hey,
Big two.
team. Welcome to Benchmarked, the leadership, coaching, and mental performance podcast with Coach Mess and Coach Larocque. Thanks for joining us. We're excited to have with us today a member of our armed forces, Warrant Officer Scott Coulter. Not only has Scott served in the military for almost 20 years now, he's also pursuing his degree in psychology from Queen's University. I was fortunate enough to teach and coach Scott back in high school and see him go through some amazing evolutions. We always seem to connect every few years and catch up on your travels and where your education is and your military service, and it always fascinates me, and you got some amazing stories. This time we're just going to do it on a podcast with everybody else. So, Scott, one, thanks for your service and welcome to the show. But before we get started, in Scott's honor, I'd like to dedicate this show to all the students and the athletes that JG and I have ever had who have gone through our programs and our classes and have gone on to great military careers. And I know for myself, a couple of names come to mind are Mike Spence, Cole Jones, and Sheldon Urquhart. JG, you got any kids that you want to mention on this?
I do, but again, like you, man, the names are kind of like I'm having a
You see
fog right now.
faces.
But
You see
yeah,
faces in place.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So Scott, anyways, again, appreciate you taking some time. I know you're busy. You just moved. You got lots of stuff going on. But can we start off because you've gone through, in my mind, one of the greatest. And my daughter called it a glam up. Like you were in my class in grade 9, and then all of a sudden you disappeared and you came back. I didn't even recognize you, man. Talk to us about where your high school journey started, where and kind of how you got through that.
Sure. Yeah, I hit high school as a big kid. Wasn't too happy with myself, getting teased quite a bit actually. Not bullied. I wouldn't say bullied, but teased for being a kind of an obese kid. And also at the time I was Coach Malekis for the juniors there at Nelson. I wasn't overly happy with being on the line or just being a lineman. Um, the leadership backbone in me just wanted to take over a little bit more, and I wanted to do something for me. So I was initially about 385 pounds when I hit grade 10 there, and I wanted to make some changes. Um, so I took off. Actually, I know you were actually one of the most encouraging people that I experienced in high school, because you kept telling me I was doing too much, and that to me is just a challenge. It means I can do more. And so I remember spending a lot of time in the weight room doing some cardio. Probably the worst way to lose the weight is like cut food out and do cardio. But at that age, it's a little bit easier to recover from. So I lost about 200 pounds in a year, and came back at 158. And then I remember the first comment you said is, "I don't know where to put you now. You're too small."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to me it blew my mind because I remember we were taking attendance in, I think it was a gym class, and you actually had to pull out your student cards. I remember this vividly, Scott, where you pulled out your student card to prove to us you were actually you, because like 200 pounds in high school, man. Like let's think about that. I weigh 200 pounds. You lost the equivalent of me in the span of what? How many months was that, Scott?
It was probably about 10 or 11 months.
That is
It was not a
unbelievable.
long time, and it was a drastic shift.
Man. But listen, back to high school. I don't want to dwell on high school too much because you did so many cool things after high school. But one of the reasons why I knew you were in the back of my mind on that, and when I ran into you, by chance, I always tend to run into you. And I was like, here's a leader. And JJ, this is one of my favorite stories. And then we've kind of talked about some similar stuff to this along the ways, but we were heading to a bowl game, and again, we pulled Scott off the offensive line because one, he's a leader and he was super fit, so he was doing some linebacker stuff. He was all over the place, some D line, like he was like a Scrabble piece, the blank Scrabble piece, right? You could put him anywhere, and it was great.
Yeah.
One of our top offensive linemen broke his leg playing house league hockey the night before or like 2 or 3 nights before our big bowl game, and Scott volunteered just to drop into that spot, and he filled it. Like when we talk about service over status, this guy, you come to mind when I think about that, and I'll never forget that, Scott. We went on to win that game, and it was an awesome game. one of my favorite high school games of all time. I think it was 2005. And one of my best memories from that was taking away your own opportunity to play defense, which you trained for, and you just like, coach, put me in wherever you need me and I'll help the team, which is amazing. So from high school, you had that bug for military service. So you kind of didn't finish at Nelson. You went on, you went and did some
Sorry,
other
Mark,
stuff.
I'm gonna cut
Yeah.
because I know you guys want to bypass high school, and I get it. But
Yeah.
for some of the listeners that maybe have kids there's kids in high school. Like, I'm just curious, Scott, like, so you lost the weight, and I know you said you didn't feel good about yourself. I just, in case there's some listeners or some parents or some coaches out there that have some of the athletes who are currently who have dealt with it, can you kind of walk us through why and what motivated you, or what kind of kept you going, if you don't mind sharing?
Sure. Actually, I've been I was talking to Mark earlier there, but I've been going through a lot in my own life lately, and one of the biggest mentalities I've always had, and honestly, I can't even remember where I got it from, but it was you can either dwell on something or you can get over it, right? And so for me, that teasing back in high school, that getting picked on, getting joked about my weight and stuff like that, it never affected me personally. I could have let it, but it was like, okay, well, that's something I need to improve on, and so it's ultimately a mentality thing, which I know we're going to get into some leadership thing, but some leadership things, but that's one of the things that I'm very passionate about, is like, you make the conscious decision whether to be sad about something and mopey about something, or get over it and do something about it. And that's what I chose. That's the route I chose.
Love it. Love it. And like you said, you can't really pinpoint what it was. It was just something that clicked where I can go left or I can go right. You just chose an example to go right.
Yeah, it's like you have two choices: be sad or be happy. And what's going to make you happy, and what do you need to do to get there?
But it's just, I don't know, man. It's refreshing, might not be the right word, but it seems like lately more people who we're hearing or talking to, not necessarily on this show, but generally speaking, are taking the left instead of the right. Is there anything, man? Can you dig in there somewhere? Like, what? Why? Like, why? Easier. I know I'm digging deep here early.
Yeah. I mean, it ultimately comes down to personal choice, and the thing is, more and more people are playing the victim with regards to certain things, and it's almost become the flavor of the week. So that victim mentality has really become cool, if you will, and it's just kind of venturing off the course of what everybody else is doing, and choosing your own path, and just being happy. I mean, whatever that means to you, just make it happen. You got to break it down into conscious steps that you need to take, and to get there. And sometimes it's the the path of most resistance, but people just choose the easy route and complain, and that's the mentality that I don't want to say I hate, because that's a strong word, but I dislike that.
So you said you heard some of those comments back in high school. But it seems like you never used it for, like you said, I could have listened to it, or I could have went this way, could have went that way. But it sounds like you made the decision for you to do something, and not because others thought of you a certain way. I don't know if I'm explaining myself correctly. I'll try and recap that a little bit. You decided to go this way because it was a choice you made for yourself. You didn't go that way because people pushed you in that direction. Am I correct in saying that?
Absolutely. I could have gotten bigger. I could have kept going down the path I was going, and moped about it, and been probably the biggest lineman Nelson's ever seen. But I just I wanted to do more for the team. I wanted to become somebody I wasn't at the time, and where I wasn't making me happy, and where I was going wasn't making me happy. So I made that decision to change.
In 10 months.
And so I'm either all in or not at all.
Yeah.
And so I just I went in all in on that one.
One of our lines is self-pity and helplessness how self-pity and helplessness produces more victimhood. Victimhood just produces more victimhood. And it's a cycle that you can't break. So you got to get it. So I'm proud of you for doing that. And I think this is what I love. Like, to me, it's not all roses. And listen, JG, I don't know about you. I don't know, JG, if I've ever asked this. I didn't love my high school experience. I can't go back. Like, it's odd that I'm a high school teacher. You're a high school teacher. I wasn't one of the cool kids. I loved sports. I loved, I had good grades. I was kind of nerdy. I was athletic. I didn't fit into one particular group, and it wasn't particularly a pleasant experience, right? The popular girls never paid attention to me, none of that stuff. So I just went along my way in my own path, and I really didn't become who I feel like I was until university. High school is hard. It is so hard. And I talk to kids all the time. It's 40 months of high school is how long you're there. And some people think they either peak in high school, and Scott, you didn't peak in high school. You kept peaking after that, where I feel sorry for the kids that peak in high school. Like, you're the badass and you're the coolest shit in high school. And then a lot of times that doesn't last. So good for you for thinking beyond and making that change, which I think is cool. So JG, were you the cat's knees and the bee's knees in high school, or what?
No, but, and it's funny you say that, is, how do I explain it? When you reflect, as much as you guys went on this one, you're into whatever group you're in, you're never satisfied with that. You're always trying to get into something else, or another group, or another door. Like, you're never I don't know. I can't speak everybody, but you're never satisfied in the situation you're in.
Yeah.
You're always looking to your left, your right. Is there something better here? Is there something better there? Until whenever that is in your life. And it could be for high school. Some people, it could be elementary, honestly, because people go through so many things in their lives. But it's, if you can keep trucking, in my opinion, if you can keep finding your path and keep digging to find your path. And I guess Scott was able to find his at the time that was right for him. But man, Scott, like, you might not feel that way, but just hearing that, and for listeners that have kids, or listeners that are of that age going through that right now, it's powerful, because you're one of the people that just kept going. You didn't become a victim. You became, somebody people to look forward to, and everything you're doing for our country and people around the world. So anyways, thanks for being a guest on our show, Mark. Thanks for finding him.
Well, I will say I haven't peaked yet. I don't know when I'm going to peak, but
Look at you.
I haven't noticed it yet. So, and one of the things is too, like, high school is where, like Mark said there, you're trying to find yourself, and you're not really satisfied with any group, like you said. But ultimately, like, those 40 months from a social standpoint, those don't matter after high school. And you don't realize that when you're in the time, right? Yeah. And so that's the big thing, is like, there's so many different groups that I was actually similar to Mark. I was a jack of all trades but master of none, and I was in so many different groups. Never really fit in with any of them, but I knew everybody, and so it was. Now I'm quite content with my friend base I have and all that stuff. So
yeah, and you're still in contact with some of those guys, which is really cool.
Yeah. I still talk, actually, quite a few. I've never really had. I was lucky in the sense that I never really had any, I'll say, enemies.
Yeah.
Back in high school, I kind of got along with everybody, but wasn't really close friends with anybody. And so now I find that certain people are in the same situation, or in certain situations that I find myself in, and it makes it easier to reach out and actually touch base with them again.
So JG loves this line, like, and I say this, and actually this is a good time of year to say this, because it just happened, and I say this to all my grade 12 kids before prom. I say, you are going to say you're going to freak out about prom. You're going to spend a boatload of money on something, like a dress and a suit and all that stuff in the event. And you're going to look back and you're going to say, that was a waste of money. I would have rather just had a barbecue and a party. And they're like, no way, Mess, no way. Like, prom is it. And then they come back the week after, they come to class and they're like, yeah, you're right. I'm going to actually start betting people on that. Like, and JG, actually, one of the guys I mentioned, Mike Spence, was the guy that we went to the hill instead of going to prom. Yeah,
I love that story.
Yeah. So, and Scotty, we used to run the hill a lot. So I remember it was one of those ones that, you like, but I wouldn't say you did like your cardio, but you were one of the strongest kids I've ever seen in high school.
I hated the hill, but looking back, it was one of the best things I could have done.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of memories there, and it's funny because we had a guest on our show a couple of weeks ago, and we talk about how important it is, how you really get to know your players and your athletes and yourself when you're in fitness and conditioning, and you're in the weight room and you're doing those. And I imagine it's the same in the military in these high stress situations. When we're doing JJ, we do sprints every Wednesday. Was head over to the hill, and we have this hill, they actually call it Murder Mountain, and every Wednesday was our conditioning, and we'd do like just reps running up and down the hill, and guys hated it but loved it at the same time. But it was a difference maker when it came to playoffs. We were the fittest team out there. So, and then the thing is you could see, because some guys would fake it and some people were really trying to push. So you really get to know the in-depth thing. And Scott, back to what I was saying, it's got to be the same thing. You're in some high stress situations when you're in military service, right? So you see people rise to the occasion, or some people not, right?
Absolutely. And we have a large focus on cardio, and soldier first is our big mantra. Is everybody's a soldier first. So whether you're at the highest level, the headquarters, or you're a general duties, individual making coffee every day, in a headquarters, whatever, or on the front line, it doesn't matter. Like, you're soldier first, and you got to focus on cardio.
So, can we go down that road and tell us what drew you to military service in the like from the get-go?
This is a fun topic because honestly, I was persuaded by a few friends. I was kind of going down the wrong path, and it seemed like a better path, and it was a very admirable job, and I didn't think I'd stick around as long as I did, but I figured I'd join. I tried to join just at 16 there, and I was too big. Couldn't pass the PT test. That's also what sparked a lot of the transition, and so my friends actually ended up getting about 8 months ahead of me when it came to where they are progressing in their careers now. But yeah, I joined simply because of peer pressure, and I hate to say that, but that's the truth. And I stuck around because I just felt like I was good at it, and kept going because I really, really enjoyed it.
So I'm going to say, and now you've pursued one leadership roles, and so you're climbing the ranks. Have you always been drawn to leadership? Like, and when you said earlier about the leader in you, you have strong. Where did that come from? Where does that kind of originate for you?
That's just like I'm very empathetic to people's needs. I'm very much willing to like drive people to be their best, even if I'm not at my best. And so that's always kind of been what's drawn me to leadership is just wanting to watch my subordinates get better at whatever they're doing, and helping them through the struggles. Because I haven't had the easiest life, but a lot of people are having some hard times that I can relate to, and being able to mentor and coach them through that is honestly the best thing that lets me sleep at night. So that's probably why I do it. Even in high school, I was a counselor in a youth group. Since then, I volunteer with the fire department, volunteer as a paramedic. Kind of a jack of all trades when it comes to just helping society. And truly it comes back to like a love for Canada.
We need more people like you,
Scott. Why help people that don't want to help? I'm just going like, I'm taking punches now.
Yeah.
Why help people that don't want to help themselves? Like you're talking about, you want to help here, you want to help there, and people don't want to help themselves. Why do you want to help them? I'm and just for our listeners, I'm not that type of person. I want to dig deep here with Scott.
So I'm also a problem solver. I like fixing things, and I try to pinpoint the ones that don't want to help themselves, and I want to focus on them and give them the most effort, because I feel more gratified when they change. Like it's almost like a challenge for me as well, because I've had several subordinates over the nearly 2 decades in the military where it's where they've just seemed hopeless. And when they do change, and when they do develop as an individual, not only just as a soldier, but as an individual, that's probably the most rewarding thing for me, because it's like I had a part in that, and they're happy now.
But how do you, once you get them there, I'm speaking for you, and I'm speaking for the people you've worked with. Once you get there, how do you stay there, or how do you get them to stay there? So getting there is great, but the work is also staying there. So how do you do that for yourself, and how have you done that for others?
I think once they get there, it's easier to stay there, to be honest, because once they see how far they've come, once they see how far they've grown as a person, yeah, it is work, but it's easy work. It's like brushing your teeth in the morning. Staying happy and staying successful and staying, ethically sound and morally sound are some of the easiest things that people can do when it comes to benefiting themselves. When somebody gets healthy, uh, let's say in my situation, for example, I was very unhealthy. Um, Definitely showed on Murder Mountain there. But very unhealthy in the start, and then when I did lose a lot of the weight, I felt a million times better. So it was easier to maintain that lifestyle than it was to like basically take a step back and go back into that lifestyle. And then over the years, it's like finding that balance. Okay, well, I have my cheat meals, I have my weekends off, I have my stuff like that, and I still have that social aspect, but that conditioning and that drive is obviously still there, and it's been easy to maintain because I know where I was and I felt where I was, and I feel where I am now, and that's like I said, a million times better than where I was.
I've had 2 punches in the face, I guess, this week. So you kind of threw that one on me. I didn't think that was going that way. And then earlier this week, I was working with a collegiate athlete, and he wasn't getting much playing time. And I'm like, how do you become such a good teammate? Because he's just such a great teammate. I said, how do you become such a great teammate? He goes, it's easy. It's like, what do you mean it's easy? He goes, it's easy. You sit in the dugout, you cheer for your team, you pick them up when they need something. He goes, what's hard is playing, making that play in the hole, getting a hit in front of a bunch of people. He goes, that's hard. Being a good teammate, that's easy. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? These are like, I get they're normal answers, but they're not what, we're kind of been pushed in our faces forever. So thanks for some more refreshing talk, Scott.
Now, and Scott's a ball player too, JG, just so you know. That's the other reason I like him. He's a ball player, not just a football guy. He's a baseball guy too. But so, Scott, do you think that you are now as effective, and I use the word effective because successful can be skewed, because that could be like wins and losses and so on, but effective meaning you're eliciting changes in your subordinates without your own personal struggles as a younger person. Do you think, now I know you're working on a degree in psychology too, so that helps, but without your own personal struggles, do you think you would be where you are without wanting to help others? Because you learned to help yourself. So do you think that had an impact on where you are today and how you look at seeing others grow and develop?
I definitely think it had an impact. It was definitely a factor. Like I said, not the easiest life. So I've had my struggles, and I like to share my struggles and help people through theirs. But also I came from a very large family, and like feeling the nurturing from both my sisters, my brothers, my mom and my dad, and stuff like that. That also was very encouraging and very much gave me that sense of help others, others before self. And then the military, I mean, that's our number two, behind respect, dignities of all person is serve the country before yourself. So I've been drawn to that since a very young age. And I think those two factors have really played into that, the struggles I've faced and the family values.
So let's dig into this now. But you opened the door for me. I'm going to push it in. I've seen you post. I think you're just about to deploy the first time I saw you. Now you've been deployed 4 times, and you've been in humanitarian assistance roles. So can you talk to us a little bit about your role in that, and talk to us about Nepal after the earthquake? Because to me, this is stuff that people need to hear what actually goes on.
Sure. Nepal was great. Actually, we were. It was great. It was a terrible situation, but it was a great experience. I'll say that. And even like the Nepalese people were so kind, so hospitable. We got over there, and it was like we already had a sense of family. It was absolutely unreal. It was. No, I won't tie it back to Canada. But it was one of those things where I was actually on a flight out to an exercise in Alberta, and our flight basically got turned around and we got sent back to Trenton to head out the door. And we saw a lot of infighting. So we were invited over. The government of Canada was invited over on behalf of the government of Nepal. But there's also two other branches. So there's the armed military, or sorry, the armed police, and then there's the armed forces. And we had about a week struggle, which was the most frustrating thing for everybody on the ground, because all 200 of us that went, we just wanted to help. We wanted to get out and do our job, but there was almost like different districts or territories that we could and couldn't go to because everybody wanted to be responsible for that, and it almost became a political game once we got over there for the first week and a half, where we were having to negotiate our way in to help people based on certain political writings and politics between the military, the police, and the government. And so that was definitely frustrating.
And you spent some time in Afghanistan too, and I know that was, you were there in the heat of things, and that was another time I think I had run into you, which is like impressive. So how do you see like your role? And I don't remember what rank you were when you were going over there, but like how does your evolution, how do you do that? How do you just say I'm going to Afghanistan, and then just do you have to compartmentalize things? And because I'm sure you had some interesting situations over there that you had to deal with as well.
Yep, it was definitely heated at times. We definitely have to compartmentalize. That's one thing that I mean we should be good at as individual soldiers, especially at the latter parts of life. But it's one of those things where what we faced there was always done for the good of the people, and Afghanistan was honestly, like, everybody asked me what my favorite, because with the military I've traveled to about 110 different countries at this point. I don't remember what the number is, but it's in triple digits. Afghanistan is still one of my favorite countries because of how amazing the people were, and how amazing the average Joe walking down the street was. Again, how hospitable they were, and even some of the ones that we knew were coerced by the Taliban. They were very kind individuals, so they were worth the attention. They were worth helping and assisting, and that's one of the biggest things that really affected a lot of us who had deployed last year when we saw the downturn after the U.S. pulled out there. That was one of the things that really affected us while we were in Lafayette, because we had a lot of individuals that were deployed to Afghanistan that saw it get taken over again in 36 hours. And so we knew it was going back to page one.
Sort of undid all the good work that you guys had started doing over there.
But it also showed how much good we did, right? And that's what I tried to re-encourage people with, is that the power of void that was left was not our fault, right? We created that space for them to create their own security force. And it just was not met. So at no point should we feel bad for our efforts there, and at no point should we feel bad for what happened. But it sucks. At the end of the day, it does suck, and it takes a little bit of an emotional kick to get over. But we did our job very well to create that safe space for the people for over a decade. And I would never regret that.
How do you go do that? Come home and cut your grass? how do you what's the switch? Is just you're trained that way? You have to have that type of mentality. Like, I know certain professions have to be that way, but I don't know. Walk me. I couldn't cut my grass. I have to get something. I don't know. I'd be stuck in a room, and I don't know what I'd be doing.
I think honestly, it creates more value in the simple things in life like that. Like, one of my favorite Sunday chores now, I got a 3-acre property, and this is my biggest thing I'm going to miss from this place, is I've got a 3-acre property in the country, and my Sunday routine is getting up and cutting the grass and taking care of the yard and just turning my brain off and listening to some music. And so it actually creates more value in that, because this is the simple thing that we have in Canada, and that we've created it over the years for when it comes to like freedom and individual, I'll say, safety. that I value that more.
And you played a part in that, right? Building that and maintaining that for us. And I just want to dial it back to, like, you're going into war zones. You're going into the earthquake in Nepal. This is a masterclass in perspective, is what you're getting, because you said you know Afghanistan was, the people were beautiful. It was great. Nepal was awesome. Yeah. You know, we're thinking here, we're watching the news and we're seeing, you know, soldiers going over there. We're seeing what's going on, and we're like, oh my God, that's hell. It's awful. It's blah blah blah. And you're coming back and say the experience was good and it's positive. And I know there's stuff that's some bad stuff, but I love the perspective of finding the good in the bad, which is really, really important. And I think it's something that we don't do enough. It's easy for us to get and dig in, like, well, this is bad. Like you're saying, kind of that victimhood thing. Everybody's a victim. Everything's bad. You're finding beauty and you're finding greatness in some really challenging stuff.
Well, I mean, it's actually, and honestly, the term slips my mind right now, but it is a psychological effect where suffrage creates bonding, right? So we kind of experience that right from the get-go in basic training. It's hard, it's tough, it's not a fun experience. But a lot of the people that I did basic with, I'm still really good friends with, because we went through it together. A lot of the guys from Afghanistan, we have you know, our WhatsApp and our Facebook groups and stuff like that. We still communicate on the regular, and it's one of those things where the harder something is, the more likely you are to stick with it and create those eternal friendships with people. So that's the bet. I've always been an optimist, so I try to keep people cheery, but that's when it comes to like interpersonal relationships, that's the experience that I've had, is that some of my best friends have come from the worst places. And even some of my best friends from high school, I mean, not that I want to admit it, but we started fighting each other and stuff like that. You know, we met out behind the parking lot and squared up with each other, and now they're really good friends of mine, because we've overcome it and we've got it out on the table, and we get past it really quickly.
Wow. Refreshing.
It
is, man.
It is like he's kind of throwing me for a curveball here. I'm not even sure where to take this, because I mean, I think I had it wrapped in my mind about like working through some challenge, like you're working through challenges, but you're making it's so cool. I the idea of finding these friends. You say like get into a fight, make a friend. You know, like that type of stuff is, I'm not.
That's a t-shirt. We're making a t-shirt.
GG, you and I need to rough it up a little bit more, which is. But I know, like, here's the other thing too: is you are a positive person, and I've known this in you since high school. You were always happy to do what was right, and you put others ahead of yourself, which is really something admirable. And now I know you're pursuing your education. Let's talk about this, because you're pursuing a degree in psychology, which is no joke.
Jealous.
Yes. And to me, the psychology and the leadership roles that you play, just they plug into each other. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually it's I'll go the opposite route. So when I dissect it from my education, a lot of what the military does, and a lot of what the canned performances, I'll say, from the staff as a leader, I'll bring it into the course, for example, any kind of course. Most courses are designed by experts in psychology. And so for me, it's more so like I see why, now I understand the why behind certain things and where they're put into the schedule and whatnot, to elicit certain responses, psychological responses. I don't necessarily use my education when it comes to the courseware. I just understand and can enhance the learning of my students, or my troops rather, my candidates. Cool. So I wouldn't say like I use my degree for anything direct in terms of my military leadership, except for when it comes to a troop having a struggle, or maybe just the way I convey myself in front of them. But it's not like I actively try to use it, or it enhances me as an individual. It's just I understand the why into how much the military is designed around certain key indicators and stuff like that.
Why psychology?
To be honest, I've always been interested in psychology. And then 2012, I got into psychological operations with the military, and I just wanted to pursue something.
What's that? That sounds fun. What is that?
So, and Mark and I were talking about this earlier. I'd rather not get into the details, but essentially, it's changing the will, behavior, and attitudes of a target audience. So in a operational setting, it could be civilians on the battlefield that we don't want throwing rocks at our vehicles. And we dissect that, and we have a whole bunch of analysis that goes into well, how can we reach out and how can we affect this community to get them to stop throwing rocks at these vehicles, at military vehicles, or how can we get them to stay away from convoys? And there's an immediate response we can elicit, which is, well, shoot a warning round. But there's other things that we can do that are maybe less lethal, that can potentially save lives. And at the end of the day, even when we were in Afghanistan, hindsight's always 20/20. I was in an infantry role in Afghanistan, but I've since moved to PSYOPs. It's at the end of the day, a lot of these people are coerced into the positions they're in. They may not agree with or believe in the values that they're having to instow on others at this point, and they're perfect candidates to be the future of that country. So why do we need to kill them when we can just change their behavior, right? And it's ultimately about saving lives. So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much.
You know what that sounds like? It sounds like when we say
like we're talking off air. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. But it's I would say it's kind of like we say the problem is the problem. The person's not the problem. The problem is the problem, right, Scott? Like that's kind of what you're leading to in this, is like there's some good people there. Like we can't just say, oh, you're from Afghanistan, you're not a good person. You're smart, you're functional, you're intelligent, you have qualities. You should lead your own country. And we just have to change the mindset. And it's kind of like what we do with sports, JG, encouraging kids to be better. What's your 1% better? What is it? Like, it's there. You got all the tools. And to me, this is the psychology part of it, is because I had a minor in sports psychology, which is really what I found I love, because it's like, how do you kind of like how you help your subordinates and your troops, Scott, is how do I help this person that doesn't want to help themselves? It's part of our podcast. It's like we're giving everybody tools to up their, level up their life game, whether it's the military. And to me, when you look at like sports and military leadership, to me, are always sought after by big business to sort things out, right? Like, Scott, why do you think that is? Why is it that like big business loves military leaders coming in as consultants or whatever to kind of right the ship, and they do the same thing with sports leaders? What's your opinion on that?
So I would say that like military leaders come with a certain set of values and ethics, especially like when it comes to discipline and integrity. And I think that's like very fundamental for most non-governmental business and whatnot. But also when it comes to marketing, we're very good at problem solving as a whole. So when it comes to, okay, well, when you, and I hate to use the term, but somebody who doesn't want to help themselves. Yes, I agree. But it just means that they haven't found the right passion to help themselves. Right. So that's a challenge for most military individuals, where it's like, okay, well, how can I craft my discussion to make them want to help themselves? How can I market to them to do this behavior? And that's where I think that we come well equipped with the tools, because we deal with I shouldn't say deal with, we get to experience troops with multiple different walks of lives. and multiple different behaviors and attitudes towards even the Canadian Army itself. And it's an individual challenge on us to craft our discussion and craft our way of leadership to them that appeals to them. And to me, I don't want to speak for any of my peers or anything, but to me, that's exciting. That's fun. That marketing aspect of everything is a great time, and trying to figure out, what works for Johnny may not work for Susan over here. So I will approach the same problem in two different ways to appeal to those two individuals to bring them onto target.
That's what I was going to go with next. You kind of answered it for me a little, because I was just like, how do we know that's even right for us to be implementing how we think is the right way? I always look at, like, Canada's not even 1% of the world population. So why the hell do we think we have it right? So, but in other parts of the world, like, they've been around way longer. I don't know. I kind of, I'm getting deeper in this right now, but I'm just starting to think, like, why do we think we have it figured out? Maybe they have it figured out. We have it all wrong. So I'm always trying to play that game in my head with that too. But the book I want to, that's why I had to shut my camera off for a second. But the book I really got into, because you're into psych, we can see that.
Okay.
So the Daily Stoic, and it's, it's every day. So you have a day like May 17th, the Stoic is a work in progress. So it kind of tells you, like, the Stoics, what they said, and then normal people kind of break down what the Stoics said, and every day has something different. And it's funny when you read those books for psychology, you're like, man, they're in my head. How do they know I'm thinking like that today, or I'm feeling like that this morning? Like, it's just, so yeah, I'm kind of jealous you're doing the psych thing. So that's good for you.
Now, Scott, do you think, from what you're describing, it sounds to me that you're building a team. So, like, say, like Susie over here and Johnny over here, they come from different backgrounds. They might have different perspectives on things, but you need them to perform a certain way and to complete a certain task. It sounds like you're a coach. It sounds like you're bringing it together now, but just in a higher stakes game, way more important than sports. Do you think your background in sports has helped formulate those abilities within you?
Absolutely. And I wouldn't say it's like a way higher level or way more important anything, because in sports, the most important thing is winning the game, right? At the end of the day, well, building teamwork and winning the game, right? So it's one of those things where we're just in a different job is all it is, really. Because a lot of our military members will never deploy and will never be in a position of harm or anything like that. So, sorry. I had COVID about 3 weeks ago, and I still got this lingering cough.
What's COVID?
I know, right? I thought it was done with, and just being down in Virginia, it's like you speak of COVID, and they'll shun you for a bit because it doesn't exist down there either. But it's one of those things where, yeah, my time with the football team, that championship was the most important thing for me. And now my most important thing is bringing everybody home safe. So and achieving the mission. So it's one of those things where it's just the same skill sets applied in a different direction. So absolutely, like football was one of the greatest experiences for me, in terms of developing me as, I'll say, a junior leader. And it definitely helped get me through some of the struggles of, like, the early times in the military and boot camp and whatnot, because, like you said, Murder Mountain, it was tough. It sucked.
So here, let's, like, I want to know, you are probably one of the people that I've, I mean, I only started teaching in 1997, so you were early on in my career, but I still see you as one of the people that has undergone so many different continuous evolutions. And I love that you said you're still not done. You still haven't peaked. I love that, because JG and I, I'm pushing 50. JG's way younger than I am, and we're hoping we haven't peaked. And we just say, like, MESS 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. What's next for Scotty Coulter? Like, what's next? What do we, like?
Sorry, I love how you previewed that, Mark. Good for you. Sorry, Scott. I just got to give kudos once in a while.
What, the fact that we haven't peaked yet? I hope.
No, like, you kind of previewed that right in there for Scotty. Like, you put the ball right on a T form. Hammer it, Scott. Hammer it.
I like to help our guests.
I'm at a kind of a crossroads in my career. I'm a few years away from a pension and retirement, and potentially a second career. So I have the choice of sticking with the military and uh, enhancing my pension and ultimately be doing what I love and being a mentor and whatnot. Or I have the option of starting over somewhere else, which would also be fun and exciting. And I could just take my leadership application and shift it somewhere else. So I'm at a crossroads where I don't know at this point what the next step is for me. I just know that every day I wake up, I just want to do better than the last day. And that's one thing that it's like, it doesn't matter what it is. I try to apply that same mindset to everything. Whether it's football, whether it's firefighting, whether it's paramedics, it doesn't matter at the end of it, whether it's the military, it doesn't matter. Just be better than yesterday. And I think especially seeing over the last 2 years with COVID and the isolations, and everybody getting down and everybody getting really really upset about literally anything. I think the world just needs a little bit more compassion.
Amen, brother. Amen. Man, there's so many places I want to go, but I know some of this is probably classified too. But and I think the idea is kind of cool because JG and I are in the same boat, because people say, well, you're a teacher and you coach, that's it. We're like, no, we're podcasters. We're working on a book. We're doing other things. People are like, why? Right? Why? Like you say, like you can go down an entire and reinvent yourself. That's what's, life is short, man. Like there's so many cool things to do out there. Why wouldn't you want to pursue something different? Right? Which is amazing. As long as you stay fit and healthy like you are, which is good. Now, you've been pretty banged up, but we're talking about fit and healthy. You've had some pretty serious injuries that you've had to work through. You want to talk to us about some of those?
Sure. Most recently, 2020, I had my ankle fully replaced. I could basically look at an uneven ground or cobblestone and roll my ankle. I had no ligaments left, and finally the military. It was about a 7-year struggle, but the military agreed to replace it because it's kind of a unique surgery. But honestly, it brought me back to 16 years old. I have never been happier with the surgery in my life. And so it was one of those things where, well, we should wait until you're a little bit older because you may need it again. It's like, no, I'm going to take care of this one now.
Yeah.
But also it's taken me from struggling on a 5K to half marathons again,
Nice.
which is amazing. And the mental recovery from that one was a little bit of a struggle because I got it just before. So I was performed on March 13th, and then the lockdown came into play March 17th. So physios, doctors, everything was closed. I had to take everything I knew from, I think it was grade 9 kinesiology. What did we have? Sports fitness.
We had health. We had health class, yeah, in grade 9.
And I pulled out some of my old textbooks, and I was like, what can I do on my own to run my own physio at home and get healthy? And I had a coworker who had a knee surgery at the same time, and he did not, he went down the other route and did not do, I'll say, due diligence and take anything into account. And he's now on his 3rd surgery to take out some of the scar tissue that he developed from inactivity. So it's, once again, it just comes down to the mindset.
Wow.
I'd love to get lost in the bush with you. We just figure it out.
just
figure it out.
Hey, like,
oh, you got shoelaces? Let's figure it out.
Yep,
chop this tree down.
We're getting shot at. Scott's like, no problem. It's all good. Isn't it beautiful? The forest is beautiful, boys. Eh? Like,
easy day. Look at the butterflies.
Yep. Oh my God, GG, you and I panic when the umpire is not doing right.
Yeah,
like, we need, you know what? We need Scott on our coaching staff, JG. There'd be way less tension. Way less tension, man. Oh, that's amazing. So, well, good for you. I'm glad that's a huge thing. So many people are like, well, you got to wait. You're too young. But like, hey, I want to live life to the fullest now and be active. I got a friend of mine who's they're trying to put off her knee surgery. And she's like, no, like I want to run. I want to do all these things and fix it. And maybe the technology will be better 20 years down the road. And I won't have to get, I mean, like we'll figure it out as we go along. So good for you, and good for you for and again, are we surprised that you figured out your own physiotherapy? No, not at all. Not at all.
I got a question. I know we're at the tail end here. I don't know if I'm like one of those former life people and I was in the military or something. I don't know what it is, but at school, I'm a huge advocate of the national anthem. I think we just take it for granted. I don't know where this is going to go talking to you about it, Scott. I'm just going to get this off my chest and get your perspective. So I think we take it for granted. We get students in grade 9 and grade 8, just elementary school. Sometimes just you go through the motions. So I have a really courageous conversation first couple days of school and crack the whip a little bit. And I got to the point I started putting up military service people that passed away right by where they put a national anthem, just like that's the people that, sacrificed their lives for you to sit and shut up basically for 2 minutes. But can you tell me from the military, like somebody's in the trenches literally, about the national anthem? I've always wanted to ask somebody, and this is perfect for me. What's the national anthem mean to you?
Well, I was initially, I was upset with the change from all this command to I think it's all our command or something like that now. I honestly, I don't even know. But what it means to me is like it's your nationalism and how patriot.
That's why we edit.
How patriotic you are towards Canada. So for me, it's one of those things where it doesn't have to mean anything to you, and at the end of the day, it's just a song. And I truly believe that because it's one of those things like I put a lot of value in it, but that's also me. And so somebody else may not think that, but they may still be patriotic towards Canada in a different way, and I respect that. And we have to also take into account like everybody's coming from different places, like we talk about diversity being our strength, and everybody's got a different walk of life. Like I mentioned, everybody's got a different mindset. I don't think it's something that needs to tie us together as a nation. I think that's our flag. And I think whatever national anthem it is great if you do feel that way towards it, but it's not a deal breaker if you don't, and it shouldn't be the end all be all of what makes you a patriot. And I respect everybody's opinion. I respect everybody's beliefs. So it's just trying to it's the empathy of trying to put yourself in their shoes and trying to see through their eyes. I do believe there's a lot of lip service played to it, and I don't mind. It's the biggest thing we fight for overseas is that we keep our freedom of speech and freedom of belief. So the fact that somebody doesn't like it or maybe not as into it as I am, that's great, because that means that they can be, and that makes us a lot better than some other countries.
One, thanks for the perspective. Two, you're killing me, man, like in a good way. In a good way.
Yeah, like
so one, again, thanks for the perspective. I needed to hear a different perspective, and I got one, a good dose of it today, by the way.
Yeah.
Man, opened my eyes. Thank you.
Yeah, opening my eyes and mind.
Sorry, I was going to say you can look at places like North Korea, where they are forced into it, and the fact that we can stand up, sit down, kneel if you have to, whatever it may be. I'm not going to draw personal emotion towards that based on what somebody else is doing, because that's the freedom that we want in Canada.
See, and that's the thing that spins in my head. People like you have fought for that freedom, but I guess but that's what it is a freedom.
It's the freedom to do what you want with it. Wow. He's thrown me for a few I've had a lot of tough backdoor curveballs thrown at me tonight.
Just foul them off.
That's all I could do. But no, Scott, like it's really, I appreciate it because, it's having seen you grow, literally since grade 9, like, which is.
And then shrink.
And then.
And then grow again.
And then grow again. It's just, and to have these perspectives now, and I love that you are teaching me things about this, and I'm grateful for that. Like, this is why we have this show, is to have these conversations with people, and it's refreshing, and your perspective is refreshing and admirable. Some people would be like, no, this is the way it's going to be done, and this, but you've really, it's like an awakening here. I appreciate it. It's really cool.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Now, we'd love to, what would you leave our listeners with for something to think about on for themselves of, what's the best piece of leadership advice you'd like to leave with us? Or, what's your message? What is it that your why? What do you want people to remember our conversation by?
I would say for any leader out there, or any future leader, the biggest thing is trust yourself, trust your judgment, and push to be better. It doesn't matter what it is. Push to be better every day, and really think about the legacy that you're going to leave, and what people are going to think about you when you're gone, and build that to what you want it to be. Right? Because we're not going to be around forever. Nobody's going to be around forever. We've got a very finite time to make a difference. Do the best you can, and believe in yourself and do it. Set your action plan and just go for it.
Thank you. JG, any final thoughts?
Yeah, one last thing. Now I know when my wife, we have a decent sized lot also, but when she goes to cut the grass for like 3 hours, now Scotty, you put in my head, she just wants to get the hell away from me for 3 hours and just not think. So thanks for refreshing my memory.
Sometimes it's just a cathartic experience to get out and do something meaningless, like it's obviously not meaningless, but like do something, low energy, very simple. Yeah.
Love it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. JG, you got a riding lawnmower, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay,
but I know why she wants to just take off. She's like, I'll cut the grass 4 days a week. And we talking, we just cut it yesterday. She just wants to get away from me.
She's getting away from you. I love it. Well, I hate this. I could go on, and I think this is another one. We gotta find another way to get Scotty back on. I'd
like, obviously sooner than later, but I'd also like to, when Scott, you decide to make that decision, what direction you're going in, to like to reconnect on that. I know that could be years from now, but I still want to talk before then. But I'm kind of curious what path you're going to take, and it's going to be great for whatever direction you take, is those people benefit big time.
Thank you. Like I said, I got a few decisions to make, but I'm just not in a mental headspace to make them at this point, and not in a life position to make them right now while I'm going through a move and everything. So I got to let things settle down. It'll be a little bit before I make that, and I'd be happy to be back on. This has been great. Thank you guys for having me on.
Well, it's fun to talk too, right? Like that's what we say, like you're saying, like just having a chance to converse. And I say, as men, we don't do this enough. Like we go golf and we go do different things and we play sports and we can go have a coffee or beer, but we don't actually sit down and talk about what's going on in our lives. Some of the cool things that we've done. It's cathartic in a way, right? So that's why this is how JG and I started this, because we enjoyed talking through COVID and I say, hey, let's get publishing some of this stuff because it's fun, but it feels good for us to share and learn and grow because we have guests like you on. So it's really cool. Appreciate it. Well, that does it for this episode of Benchmarked. Thanks for listening. Until next time,
keep crushing it.